Did they really change the death toll at Auschwitz from 4 million to 1.5 million? Yes, but this doesn't in any way whatsoever mean that the Holocaust death toll of 6 million Jews is wrong and needs changing. Confused? Let's break it down. You see, after the Second World War, Auschwitz fell into the hands of the Soviet Union, and when they calculated the death toll, well, it wasn't actually the death toll that they calculated. They didn't examine how many people were sent to the camp versus how many people survived or were transported to other camps, and how many people never came back. Instead, the Soviet authorities based the death toll on a Nazi document that outlined the capacity of the 5 crematoria. The Russian authorities took that daily cremation figure of 4,756 corpses, estimated a downtime of 20% due to breakdowns and maintenance, and arrived at the figure of 4 million, after also taking into account the different dates the crematoria were in operation. They then put this figure on a memorial plaque at the far west of the Birkenau death camp between crematoria 2 and 3. The Soviet authorities tried to present Auschwitz as a very general crime of fascism, to which of course communism was supposed to be the antidote. That's why there's zero mention of Jews in the 4 million Soviet plaque, despite the fact that 90% of the people sent to Auschwitz were Reichssicherheitshauptamt or Reich Main Security Office transports of Jews. The failure to examine who and how many people were actually sent to the camp versus how many people never came back is the reason why this 4 million figure plays absolutely no role at all in the calculation of the Auschwitz and the Holocaust death tolls. Holocaust deniers sometimes claim that the plaque was changed due to pressure on historians from their findings. This is entirely false for two reasons. Firstly, because it was actually the cooling of Cold War tensions in the 1980s that allowed historians on both sides of the Iron Curtain to re-examine the 4 million figure. And shortly after the Soviet Union collapsed, the plaque was updated to give 1.5 million as the death toll and to reflect the fact that most Auschwitz victims were Jews. So, nothing at all to do with the opinions of Holocaust deniers. And secondly, and perhaps most importantly, because Western historians knew quite quickly after the war that the Auschwitz death toll was never as high as 4 million, and they knew this decades before Holocaust deniers started to question the 4 million figure with their own strawman arguments. After the war, the commandant of Auschwitz, SS Obersturmbannführer or Lieutenant Colonel Rudolf Höss, initially said that 2.5 million people died at Auschwitz. But this was when he was in British custody and was being presented with figures even higher than this during interrogation. Höss was subject to beatings while being held by the British after they captured him, and it's plausible he was being presented with unrealistic figures as a way of manipulating him into revealing the real figures. And of course, he may have given this figure simply in the hope of stopping the beatings. But while in Polish custody in 1947, Höss later said that he regarded the figure of 2.5 million as far too high, saying that even Auschwitz had limits to its destructive capabilities. Recalling figures from memory given to him by Adolf Eichmann, which he said were incomplete, he said that the death toll was at least 1.13 million, which is far closer to the death tolls that Western historians have typically calculated. Höss reported that his treatment while in Polish custody was initially acceptable, but as time went by, the guards started to mistreat him. However, the prosecutor's office stepped in and the abuse stopped. Höss wrote in his memoirs, "I have to openly confess that I never would have expected to be treated so decently and so kindly in a Polish prison as I have been since the intervention of the prosecutor's office." As the historian and professor John C. Zimmerman of the University of Nevada notes in his essay on the reliability of Höss's memoirs, Höss's surprise no doubt originates from the fact that he was responsible for the murder of around 300,000 Polish people at Auschwitz, most of whom were Polish Jews. So, as you can see, there is simply nothing honest or intelligent or academic about using the 4 million death toll plaque to try to cast doubt on what happened at Auschwitz and on the overall Holocaust death toll. It's the very definition of a strawman argument, and no serious historian, nor even the commandant of Auschwitz himself, ever believed that 4 million people died at Auschwitz.